All right, what's going on? Coffee and Crypto here. I'm Rob.
And this is Nick.
And today we have a painful one for you guys, but it is a hard learned lesson that Nick wants to share with you because it's going to bring you some insight, perspective, and hopefully you can learn from his lessons. So, Nick, is it true that you've lost over $1 million in crypto?
That is 100% true.
So are we talking like 1 million even? We're talking like 1.5 million?
From my high water mark on paper, I'm down probably a couple million.
So a couple is more than one. So let's just throw that out there. Maybe like 2-3 million in that range, just to keep it simple. Um, Now that is unrealized loss, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
But it's like if I would have sold at the peak, I'd be in a much better position than I am right now.
Right. So it's unrealized, meaning that you're in a loss, but technically, since you haven't sold, it could recover. But in this state and time, it feels like it is a loss because, I mean, that's the real value of the account right now. You're negative a couple million. So a couple things. When your account was at the peak and you saw, you were up a couple million, what was your thought process then? And did you think that, what did you think? Did you think like, I'm good, I'm just going to keep it here and then time the market, or I'm just not going to sell it and ride it to, Bitcoin goes to 100,000, or I'm going to get out in like another month when it goes up another 20%? What were you thinking when you were up in the green a couple million?
I mean, thankfully I did cash some of it out. Not at the top, but before the top happened. And I actually, after I sold, I felt stupid because I saw some of my assets rally another 50, 60%. And at this point, even though on paper, from my high water mark, I'm down a couple $1 million, in the grand scheme of things, I'm still following my plan and I'm still up overall in crypto. It's just when you see that number on paper, such a large amount that I could have cashed out, and then it's down well over seven figures, it just does something to your psyche. And it happens both ways. Money is such an emotional thing, and it does really crazy things to your brain. And it's hard for me to even explain what happens to your brain when that happens. You kind of almost have to experience it for yourself. Um, there's periods of extreme overconfidence where you think you can't make a mistake, and that always leads to a fall. That always, like, every time I've made like a massive amount of money very quickly, the next 10 trades or 10 decisions I make are all wrong. It's just that's what seems to happen. Like, the overconfidence will lead you to make bad decisions. So I don't even know what kind of advice I could give to prevent that from happening again.
So a couple more questions,
Sure.
because I think, just your answers will give the advice. But so you're up at that peak, you're up a couple million, and then you sold some. And, in hindsight, it's easy to look back and see what happened. Like, we obviously hit a peak of the bull market, and we've been trickling down. We've had some really steep sell-offs. But during that whole time between now and looking in the past to the peak, it's hard to really realize what position of the market you're in. Like, are we like actually going deep into a bear market, recession, all that stuff? So did you see that was happening and you're just like, I'm just gonna, take my chances and ride it out because I don't think it's going to be that bad? Or you thought that, we've dipped down a little bit and I think we're going to rebound and have another rally here and I'll be able to, get out of this loss? Or like, what were you thinking on the way down?
So it's kind of funny that if I think back on where I was, when we hit 69,000 on Bitcoin, when we broke above the all-time high, I think it got to like 64, 65,000. We pulled back into the summer and then we went and set a new all-time high. I was pretty confident that we were going into a bear market at that point. However, my mistake was I saw the Bitcoin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bitcoin dominance, but it's the amount of money that is in Bitcoin versus the rest of the market. I saw the Bitcoin dominance falling, so I was under the impression that as Bitcoin sold off, even though I was pretty certain that it wasn't a bear market, I thought that that money was going to be flowing into the altcoins. And at that point, I was 100% in altcoins. My biggest positions were VChain and XRP. And those two coins had not hit my target prices yet. So I was waiting on Bitcoin to find a local bottom, retrace up to wherever the retracement levels are on the Fibonacci's. I think at this point we're looking at retracing up to like the mid 50,000 range. I do still see something like that coming. I just don't know when. It's hard to predict timing in the markets. It's much easier to predict price levels. That's why all of my targets are price targets. They're not time targets. So at this point, I'm holding on for dear life, even though on paper my portfolio looks ugly. Some of my positions are down 90% or more. I'm using that as an opportunity to accumulate more at these prices because I do think that eventually that retracement rally is going to come and Bitcoin dominance is still falling. And I do believe money is going to pour into the altcoin projects that are doing something positive for society and the world. I do believe VChain and XRP are two of those projects. And I am invested in those just to be fully transparent. And I've got price targets. My price targets for XRP, right now we're sitting at, I think, like 36, 37 cents. Um, I'm not going to start selling any XRP until it's over its all-time high of $3, like 350. And my ultimate price target for XRP, we could do a whole video on that, is anywhere between $10 to $13. I fully believe it's going to get there. I just don't know when. And VChain, anywhere from we're sitting at 3 cents right now. My target for that is 50 cents to $1, and I fully believe with everything that they've got going on, especially with the recent UFC partnership, that's going to give them a whole lot of brand recognition, and they're doing great things on their blockchain. So those two projects, I'm waiting for my targets to hit still, and I'm just being patient.
I think the biggest thing is that even though you've taken 90% plus or minus losses since the peak of the bull market, you still believe in crypto. You still have the conviction that it's going to come back, it's going to rebound, it's going to go higher in the future. Whereas other investors would have panic sold at a loss, you know, just gotten out of the market completely and taken a loss and never to return. So it sounds like we hit that peak, and then everyone knows what happened. Since 69,000 Bitcoin, we've been trending down. We're in a bear market recession, but going through all that, it sounds like your plan was, okay, even though we've dipped down, we're now 40, 50,000, whatever, 30,000, we could still have a retracement rally that would send things back up. And then at that point, if that retracement rally did play out like you had predicted, or if it will play out in the future, then what would be your plan?
It's just diversification. I knew at some point, and I still fully know at some point that I need to diversify myself. I can't be 100% in crypto, and I'm actually not at 100%. My portfolio is probably 70 to 80% crypto, which is crazy by some people's standards. I know I know some people out there say don't have more than 3 or 4% in crypto or something like that, but I am diversified at the moment. Just I'd like to reduce my amount of crypto, but I am waiting for those price targets to hit. And the reason I have so much confidence in this playing out is this happened back in the late 90s, early 2000s with all of the internet companies, like the ones that stuck around. If you look at Amazon, their stock, it had like 2 or 3 times where it went up and peaked and then dumped 90%, and then came back, dumped 90% again. And like, if you just look at the chart, that actually happened. So if you're invested in projects that are down 90%, don't lose hope, don't lose faith. If it's a project that you truly believe in and you believe that it is continuing to grow, they've got good leadership, all the things we've talked about in some of our other videos, and just have patience.
What's it feel like to lose over $1 million? Does it mess with you psychologically? Do you have regrets about it, or you're okay accepting it because you believe in crypto so much that you think you'll eventually rebound and be in a better place than you are now?
Well, yeah, of course it hurts, like emotionally. You can feel it, even though it's just numbers on a screen at this point. Like, do I have regrets? Like, yes, it hurts, but I can't have regrets because I am still following the plan that I had initially set out, and that wrote it down on paper, and like I had a plan. And I can't have regrets if I'm following the plan that I set out for myself. The only way I would have regrets is if I deviated from my plan and I messed it up somehow, which I actually did in the previous bull run when I was holding God knows how much XRP. It was several million XRP tokens when it was below a penny, and I had written out a plan for myself and I deviated from it. And yeah, I look back on some of those mistakes I made, but those are all things you learn from. Like, this whole investing thing is something you learn from. You eventually figure out that it's 95% emotions and 5% knowing the numbers and the charts, because like you can learn these charts, you can learn how to invest in a month or two if you just stick to it. But learning like how to be successful at investing in the long term is more about conquering your own weaknesses and your emotions than anything.
If you could go back and change anything that could have avoided having this much unrealized loss, would you have done anything differently? Or because this is what your plan was, this is how it would have played out regardless, because this was your plan? Like, you can't really time or predict the market. You had a plan and you were sticking to it. So if you could go back, would you have done anything differently? Or because this was your plan, was ultimately what would have happened regardless?
Um, this is what would have happened regardless. It's actually funny because I did deviate from my plan a little bit, selling some of my VeChain tokens prior to my target. That wasn't even part of my plan. I just did it because I saw how large the numbers were. I knew that if I didn't take profit off the table and something crazy happened, I would have regretted it. So I'm thankful that I did take some money off the table last year, because we are deep into a bear market. We haven't had a retracement rally. I'm still waiting on the Bitcoin dominance to fall, so we get all of these altcoins having an alt season. I was planning on like something repeating like happened in 2017 where Bitcoin dumped, and on the retracement all of the altcoins broke out to their all-time highs, and still waiting for that to happen.
Interesting stuff. So, given the fact that you've lost a couple million and you're still holding it at a loss, it's unrealized, you have the conviction for crypto long term, you think it's going to come back, you think it's going to rebound, you think everything's going to go higher. What do you predict that when things do come back and things do come higher, that, okay, you're negative 1, 2+ million dollars now. If we get back to all time highs and we go even higher, what do you predict that you can turn this around to get to?
Oh, I fully believe it's going to be over my previous high water mark if we get to the targets that we're talking about. And I think it'll be somewhere between 5 and 10 million, in my opinion. Based on, I mean, that's simple math. It's like take my price targets, multiply it by what I'm holding in cold storage, and it'll be somewhere between 5 and 10 million, depending on how well I can stick to the plan that I have.
Okay, so that's kind of like, when you're crunching numbers there, it's like, okay, I had a couple million here, and now I couldn't time the markets. No one can, and we're in a bear market now. I lost a couple million, but since I have conviction, I think crypto is going to rebound. And if things do go back up and crypto is here for the long term, which we are believers that it is, then you'll be plus, in the green, in the positive, $5 to $10 million. So when you look at it that way, it's like, okay, you're holding an unrealized loss now of a couple million, but if you hold on for a longer term, you could be positive 5 to 10 million, which is in a way better position than now, and then even at the peak of the bull market. So, when you can project out a little bit, have some price targets, it'll give you a little bit more peace of mind than just kind of like waking up and freaking hating yourself for holding through, all the dips and whatnot. But it's interesting stuff. I think the big takeaway here is just, having conviction in your investments, whether that's crypto, it's real estate, it's stocks, it's a company you're evaluating, it's, whatever it is you want, a business you want to invest in, just having conviction and sticking to a plan, so you can persevere through the ups and downs. So I think that's really the biggest takeaways, because if you do stick with it for the long haul, you're going to have success along the way. Nothing's guaranteed, but the more resilient you are, the better off you're going to be. So, all right, that's pretty interesting. Unless you have anything else you want to say about you losing 7+ figures.
No, it's just the final thoughts is yeah, I had to go through the pain to learn, and most people do. That's just what it is. That I see this happen. I mean, this happened the same, similar, something similar happened to me in the 2017 bull run. Went through a bear market, and I'm learning my lessons, and I'm just praying that with me sharing what I went through, maybe some of our viewers out there can just hear what we're saying and maybe not make the same mistakes that I did. But on top of that, Rob and I were not financial advisors. Make sure you do your own research, and we will see you guys next time.